The morning sun cast long shadows across the strange crystal formations of Kepler 44b. Commander. Guan Park adjusted his helmet and checked his equipment one more time. The readings on his scanner showed nothing unusual, just another routine geological survey on another empty world. Minho, what do you make of these formations? Juan called out to his team xenogeologist, Dr. Minho Kim, who was crouched near a cluster of blue-green crystals. Minho looked up from his instruments, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cool morning air. These crystals are unlike anything I have seen before, Commander. The molecular structure is almost organic, but the mineral composition suggests they formed naturally over millions of years. Lieutenant Soman Lee, their security officer, stood watch nearby with her rifle ready. She scanned the horizon constantly, even though they had detected no signs of life on this planet. How much longer do we need to stay here? This place gives me an uncomfortable feeling. Engineer Hyunwoo Choi was busy setting up communication equipment to maintain contact with their ship in orbit. The atmospheric interference is stronger than expected, he reported. Our signals are having trouble getting through. Giwan nodded and turned his attention back to the cliff face they needed to climb. The survey required samples from the upper reaches of the crystal formation, about 50 meters up the rocky wall. The climb looked challenging, but not dangerous. Salman, you stay here with Hyunwoo and maintain security, Giwan decided. Minho and I will climb up and collect the samples we need. The climb started easily enough, as the rock was solid, and there were plenty of handholds. Juan had been rock climbing since he was a teenager, and this felt like any other climb he had done on Earth or Mars. Minho followed behind him. Carrying the sample collection equipment halfway up the cliff, Juan noticed something strange. The rock here felt different under his hands. It was smoother, almost polished, as if it had been worked by intelligent hands rather than shaped by natural forces. He made a mental note to mention this in his report. Commander, look at this, Minho called from below. He was examining a section of rock that seemed to have patterns carved into it. These markings look almost like writing, but I cannot identify the language. Juan paused in his climb to look down at what Minho had found. The patterns did look deliberate, too regular to be natural formations. As he shifted his weight to get a better view, his right foot slipped on a loose piece of sediment. The fall happened so quickly that Giwan barely had time to react. One moment he was secure against the cliff face, and the next he was tumbling through empty air, yet several rocky outcroppings on the way down, each impact spinning him in a different direction. Instead of hitting the ground, Juan crashed through what looked like solid rock. The surface gave way beneath him like water, and he found himself falling into darkness. His last conscious thought was wondering how rock could be hollow. When he hit the bottom, everything went black. The impact triggered something deep beneath the planet's surface. Sensors that had been dormant for thousands of years suddenly came online. Ancient circuits, protected by technology that made Earth's best computers look like toys, began processing information at incredible speeds. Guan's unconscious body was scanned by invisible beams of energy. His DNA was analyzed, his brain patterns recorded. His genetic markers compared against files that had been waiting in storage for millennia. The process took less than a second. Deep in the planet's core, an artificial intelligence that called itself Ancestor reviewed the scan results. The genetic markers matched. The neural patterns were compatible. After 10,000 years of waiting, the conditions had finally been met. Systems throughout the underground complex began activating. Lights that had been dark for centuries flickered to life. Massive machines started their slow return to full power. The awakening had begun. Above ground, Salman heard Guan's cry as he fell. She ran to the base of the cliff and looked up to see Minho climbing down as quickly as he could. "Where's the commander?" she shouted up to him. He fell through the rock, Minho called back, his voice filled with confusion. The surface just opened up and swallowed him. Hyunwoo abandoned his communication equipment and ran over to join them. Together, they searched the base of the cliff for any sign of their commander. The rock looked solid everywhere they examined it. "This is impossible," Hyunwoo said, running his hands over the stone surface. Rock doesn't just open up like that. Meters below their feet, Guan slowly regained consciousness. Pain shot through his left leg, and he could tell it was broken. His head throbbed and his vision was blurry, but he was alive. As his eyes adjusted to the darkness, he realized he was not in complete blackness after all. A soft blue glow was coming from somewhere nearby. He tried to move toward the light, but gasped as pain flared in his leg. That was when the voice spoke. "Welcome back, Commander," it said in perfect Korean, though the accent was strange and old-fashioned. "Protocol Homecoming has been initiated. You have been absent for 10,127 standard years?" Guan's blood ran. Cold. He was alone on an empty planet, injured and trapped underground. And something was talking to him in a language his team had never heard spoken here. The blue glow grew brighter, and Jiwan could see that he was in a vast cavern. The walls were not natural rock, but smooth metal that seemed to pulse with its own inner light. Symbols and patterns covered every surface, similar to what Minho had found on the cliff face, but far more complex. "Who are you?" Jiwan managed to ask, his voice weak from pain and shock. "I am Ancestor," the voice replied. "I have been waiting for your return. The protocols are clear. When a genetic descendant of the original commanders returns to this world, all systems are to be activated and all knowledge made available." Guan's mind raced despite his injuries. Original commanders? Genetic descendant?
Oh.
None of this made any sense. Humans had only been in space for a few hundred years, and this was the first time anyone had set foot on Kepler-44b. The metal walls around him continued to brighten, revealing technology that was clearly far beyond anything humanity currently possessed. Holographic displays appeared in the air, showing star charts and data streams that moved too quickly for him to follow. "There has been some mistake," Jiwan said. "I am just a survey commander. We are here to collect rock samples." "Correct," Ancestor replied. "You are Commander Giwan Park, genetic descendant of the Park family line, carriers of the command codes. Your DNA signature matches our records. The awakening protocols are now active across all connected worlds." As if to prove the point, the cavern filled with a low humming sound as massive machines came online somewhere in the depths below. Giwan realized that his simple fall from a cliff had somehow triggered something much larger than he could have imagined. Above ground, his team continued their desperate search, unaware that their commander had just awakened something that had been sleeping for 10,000 years. Above ground, Solomon paced back and forth near the cliff face. 3 hours had passed since Commander Giwan had disappeared, and they had found no way to reach him. The rock remained solid no matter how hard they hit it or scanned it with their equipment. "There has to be an explanation," Minho said for the 10th time. He was running every scan he could think of, but his instruments showed nothing unusual about the rock formation. People don't just fall through solid stone. Yunwoo had finally managed to establish contact with their ship. "Captain Dongyun wants to know our status," he reported. "Should I tell him the commander's disappeared?" "Not yet," Salmon decided. "Give us another hour. There has to be something we're missing." 30 meters below them, Giwan was learning things that challenged everything he thought he knew about human history. The AI called Ancestor had been patiently explaining while medical systems tended to his broken leg. "The injury will heal properly," the Ancestor said as a strange blue light played over Giwan's leg. The pain was already fading. "Our medical technology was designed to repair human bodies quickly and completely." "You keep saying our technology," Jiwan said, "but you're an artificial intelligence. You're not human, correct?" "I am not human, but I was created by humans." "Your ancestors, Commander?" 10,000 years ago, this planet was home to a thriving human civilization. Giwan shook his head. "That's impossible. Humans only developed space travel a few hundred years ago. We have records going back to the beginning of our civilization." "On Earth, your current civilization on Earth," Ancestor corrected, "not your first one. The humans who built me in this facility came from Earth originally, but that was during humanity's first expansion into space. Much was lost when they were forced to leave." The holographic displays around them shifted, showing images that made Giwan's breath catch in his throat. Cities that floated in the clouds, ships the size of moons. Technologies that seemed like magic but were clearly the work of human hands and minds. This is what your ancestors achieved, Ancestor explained. They spread across hundreds of star systems. They built wonders that would seem impossible to your current technology, and then they had to abandon it all and run. Run from what? The displays changed again, showing something that made Jiwan's skin crawl. Dark shapes moving between the stars, consuming everything in their path. Entire solar systems going dark as something unimaginable fed on them. The Devourer's Ancestor said. Entities made of dark matter and hunger. They move slowly through space, taking centuries to travel between systems, but when they arrive, they consume everything. Matter, energy, even the space itself becomes food for them. Jiwan watched in horror as the displays showed world after world falling to these creatures. How did humanity survive at all? By running, by hiding, and by preparing for their eventual return. The displays showed humans fleeing in massive ships, scattering across the galaxy like seeds on the wind. Your ancestors knew the Devourers would eventually find Earth again. So they created places like this. Hidden worlds filled with technology and knowledge waiting for humanity to grow strong enough to fight back. But why me? Why did your systems activate when I fell down here? Because you carried the genetic markers of the Park family line. Of the original commander families who helped plan the Great Escape. Your DNA contains coded information that has been passed down through hundreds of generations. Even though your current civilization forgot what it meant, Jiwan felt dizzy. And it wasn't from his injury. You're saying I'm descended from some kind of ancient space commander? Not some kind. The kind. Commander Jiwan Park of the 47th Deep Survey Fleet was your direct ancestor. He was one of the humans who designed this facility and programmed my systems. In a very real sense, you built me. The medical systems finished their work on Jiwan's leg. He tested it carefully and found that the pain was completely gone. Whatever technology had healed him was far beyond anything his civilization possessed. Even if I believe all of this, Jiwan said, what am I supposed to do about it? I'm just one person. You are the activation key, Ancestor replied. Your presence here has sent signals to similar facilities across the galaxy. Other seed worlds are awakening their own systems. Humans with the right genetic markers will find themselves drawn to these places, just as you were drawn here. Above ground, Haiyan Wu's communication equipment suddenly came alive with signals from across human space. That's strange, he said, adjusting the controls. I'm picking up transmissions from dozens of worlds, all on the same frequency. Soman and Minho rushed over to listen. The messages were garbled, but they could make out fragments. References. 2 ancient sites activating. People reporting strange dreams that drew them toward specific locations. Archaeological sites that had been dormant for centuries suddenly showing signs of power. What does this mean? Soman asked. Before anyone could answer, the ground beneath their feet began to vibrate. The rock face they had been examining started to glow with the same blue light that surrounded Jiwan far below. Step back, Minho warned. But his voice carried excitement as well as caution. Something is happening. The rock face began to change. What had appeared solid now became transparent, revealing the vast underground complex beneath. It could see levels upon levels of technology stretching down into the planet's core. And at the bottom, they could see a small figure surrounded by blue light. My Soman breathed. Down in the complex, Ancestor's voice took on a more urgent tone. Your team members are also important, Commander. Engineer has genetic markers from the Choi family line. The security officer carries traces of the Lee military bloodline. Even your xenogeologist has connections to the ancient Kim research. Families. Are you saying we were all meant to find this place? Not meant. Designed? Your ancestors didn't just scatter randomly across the galaxy. They planned everything. The colony ships that eventually settled your current worlds carried specific genetic lines, keeping the command codes alive through hundreds of generations. When the time was right, representatives of these bloodlines would be drawn together. Jiwan looked up through the transparent rock and saw his team staring down at him. Can they come down here? They must come down here, Ancestor replied. The activation process requires all 4 command lines to be present. Only then can the full protocol be initiated.
Oh.
The blue glow from the complex grew brighter, and a platform began to rise from the depths. It moved slowly but smoothly, clearly, designed to carry people safely between the surface and the underground facility. Your civilization calls this planet Kepler 44 to be, Ancestor continued. But its original name was Hope. It was named by the first humans who came here, fleeing the Devourers. They built this place as a monument to human persistence and a weapon for human survival. As the platform reached the surface, Soman, Minho, and Hyunwoo stepped onto it without hesitation. They had questions that needed answers, and their commander was waiting below. The real question, Commander Ancestor said as the platform began to descend, is whether humanity is ready to reclaim its birthright. The Devourers are coming again. Our deep space sensors have detected their approach. They will reach human space within 50 years. Gyuan watched his team descending toward him and felt a strange sense of destiny settling over his shoulders. His simple geological survey had become something much larger. Humanity's ancient enemy was returning, but this time they would be ready. The platform touched down, and his team rushed toward him. They had a galaxy to awaken and a war to prepare for. The real work was just beginning. Hyunwoo was the first to speak after stepping off the platform. His eyes were wide as he stared at the technology surrounding them. This is impossible. The systems are thousands of years more advanced than anything we have. Not thousands, Ancestor corrected. 10,000 years more advanced. Your ancestors had much more time to develop their science before the first Devourer attack. Minho was already moving toward the nearest wall display, his scientific curiosity overcoming his shock. These mineral formations I was studying above ground, they're not natural at all, are they? Correct, Dr. Kim. What you identified as crystals are actually energy collectors and transmitters. This entire planet is a machine disguised to look like a natural world. Every rock formation, every mountain range, every crystal cluster serves a purpose in the planetary defense system. Salmon kept her weapon ready, even though there was clearly no immediate threat. Her military training told her to stay alert. Defense system against what exactly? You mentioned these Devourers, but what are they really? The holographic displays around them shifted, showing deep space monitoring data that was flowing in real time from sensors scattered across the galaxy. Perhaps it is better if you see for yourselves, Ancestor said. The images showed vast regions of space that had once contained stars and planets.
Oh.
Now there was nothing but empty darkness. It's not the normal darkness of space between stars, but an absolute void where matter itself had been consumed. The Devourers are not alive in any way that humans understand life, Ancestor explained. They exist as patterns in dark matter, vast intelligences that feed on the fundamental forces that hold the universe together. When they arrive in a star system, they begin converting everything into pure energy. Jiwon watched the displays with growing horror. How long does it take them to destroy a solar system? Approximately 50 to 70 years, depending on the size and complexity of the system. They are methodical in their consumption. First, they drain the outer planets, then move inward, toward the star itself. When they finish, there is nothing left but empty space. Hyunwoo had found an interface panel and was trying to connect his portable equipment to the ancient systems. These readings show massive energy signatures moving through space. How many of these things are there? Our long-range sensors have identified 17 separate Devourer entities, Ancestor replied. They travel independently, but seem to coordinate their movements across galactic distances. The nearest one is approximately 49 years away. From the edge of current human space, the number hit them all like a physical blow. 49 years seemed like a long time, but not nearly long enough to prepare for something that could consume entire solar systems. Why didn't humanity fight them the first time? Salman asked. With technology like this, surely we could have found a way to stop them. Humanity did fight them, Ancestor said. The war lasted 3,000 years. We won many battles and destroyed billions of their smaller forms, but the main entities were too powerful, and there were too many of them. In the end, evacuation was the only option that would save the human race. The displays showed glimpses of that ancient war. Human ships the size of cities, engaging creatures that seemed to bend space around themselves, weapons that could crack. Planets being fired at enemies that absorbed the energy and grew stronger. Brave human fighters dying by the millions to buy time for evacuation fleets. But you said this place was built as a weapon, Guan said. If we couldn't win the first time, what makes you think we can win now? 'Cause now we have something we didn't have before, Ancestor replied. Time to prepare, and the knowledge of what works and what doesn't. Your ancestors spent their last 1,000 years studying the Devourers, learning their weaknesses, developing new strategies. Minho had been studying the technical displays, and his face was pale. These energy readings from the planet's core. This entire world is some kind of massive weapon, isn't it? Planet Hope is the command center for a network of 47. Similar weapons scattered throughout this region of the galaxy. Each one is disguised as a natural world, hidden among the normal planets that humanity has colonized. Your people have been living on top of the greatest arsenal ever created, and they never knew it. Hunwu successfully connected his equipment and gasped at the data flowing through his systems. I'm detecting similar signals from dozens of star systems. Other facilities are coming online, just like you said they would. The activation sequence was designed to be gradual, Ancestor explained. As each facility awakens, it sends signals to the next in the chain. Within one standard year, all 47 weapons platforms will be fully operational. Salman was still focused on the tactical situation. What kind of weapons are we talking about? What can hurt something made of dark matter? The key discovery your ancestors made was that the Devourers are vulnerable to coordinated quantum disruption. They exist as patterns in dark matter. But those patterns can be broken if you hit them with the right kind of energy at precisely the right frequency. The displays showed technical diagrams that were almost impossible to follow, but the basic concept was clear. The weapon platforms could generate massive fields of quantum energy that would disrupt the dark matter patterns that made up the Devourers. But it requires all 47 platforms working together, Ancestor continued. The quantum fields must be synchronized across interstellar distances with perfect timing. Even one platform failing to fire at the correct moment could cause the entire attack to fail. Giwan felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. And I'm supposed to coordinate all of this? You and others like you? The genetic markers that brought you here also exist in humans scattered across the galaxy. As the platforms activate, those individuals will find themselves drawn to them, just as you were drawn here. Each platform will have its own command. Team Hunwu looked up from his equipment with excitement and fear in his voice. Commander, I'm picking up communications from human colonies across known space. People are reporting strange dreams, urges to travel to specific planets, archaeological sites that are suddenly showing signs of unknown technology. The awakening is spreading faster than we expected, Ancestor observed. This suggests that the Devourer approach has been detected by our deep space sensors. The automated systems are accelerating the activation sequence. Minho had found geological surveys of the planet and was comparing them to what he was seeing in the facility. This is incredible. The entire planetary structure has been modified. The core isn't natural metal and rock, some kind of quantum processing matrix. Correct. The planet's mass has been converted into a giant quantum computer and energy generator. When fully charged, it can project disruption fields across several light-years of space. Soman was studying tactical displays that showed the approaching Devourer entities. 49 years isn't very long to prepare for something like this. What happens if we're not ready in time? Then humanity faces the same choice your ancestors faced, Ancestor replied. Fight and die, or run again, and hope to find somewhere else to hide. The team stood in silence for a moment, absorbing the magnitude of what they had learned. They had come to this planet to collect rock samples. Instead, they had discovered they were the key to humanity's survival in a war that had been fought once before and lost. There's something else, Ancestor said, and its tone suggested this news would be even harder to accept. The Devourers aren't just returning by accident. Our sensors indicate they are being guided by something. Some intelligence that remembers where humanity fled to and is directing them toward your current colonies. Giwan felt his blood run cold. You're saying something is hunting us specifically. That, is the conclusion our analysis supports. The 17 entities are moving in coordinated patterns that suggest central control. Something learned from? The first Warren has been tracking human expansion ever since. The war they were preparing for wouldn't just be against mindless consumers of matter and energy. They would be fighting an intelligence that had been planning this attack for 10,000 years. 3 days had passed since the team first descended into the underground complex. What had started as a simple geological survey had become a crash course in humanity's forgotten history and hidden destiny. Juan barely recognized himself anymore. As he stood before holographic displays showing the awakening of weapon systems across the galaxy. Another facility just came online in the Tau Ceti system, Yunwo reported from his position at the main communication console. That makes 32 active platforms now. Ancestor's voice filled the chamber. The acceleration continues. Our deep space monitoring stations have detected the lead devourer entity has increased its approach speed. Estimated arrival time is now 37 years instead of 49. Minho looked up from the geological scans he had been studying. I still can't believe what you've done to this planet. Entire crust has been restructured. These formations I thought were natural crystal deposits are actually focusing arrays for quantum energy beams. Your ancestors were thorough in their preparations, Ancestor replied. Every mountain range on this world serves a purpose. Polar ice caps are cooling systems for the planetary weapons. Even the atmosphere has been modified to enhance energy transmission. Solomon had spent the last 2 days learning to interface with the ancient combat systems. The technology was unlike anything in current human military doctrine. Instead of physical controls, the weapons responded directly to neural patterns and emotional states. Show me the personal defense systems again, she requested. A section of the wall slid open, revealing armor and weapons that seemed to flow like liquid metal. When Solomon approached, the armor began to reshape itself to fit her body perfectly. The weapons felt warm in her hands, as if they were alive and responding to her touch. These systems were designed to amplify human capabilities rather than replace them, Ancestor explained. The armor increases strength and speed by reading the user's intentions. The weapons become more powerful when used to protect others rather than for personal gain. Soman activated one of the weapons, and it glowed with soft blue energy. It feels like it's connected to my thoughts.
How is that possible?
Your ancestors understood that the greatest human strength lies not in individual power, but in the will to defend others. The technology was built to respond to that fundamental human drive. Jiwan was studying tactical displays that showed the layout of all 47 weapon platforms. Ancestor, you said these facilities are disguised as natural worlds. How many humans are currently living on them without knowing what they're standing on? Approximately 400 million people across all platforms, Ancestor replied. Your species chose well when selecting colony sites. The genetic programming in your command bloodlines guided human expansion toward these hidden installations. The number was staggering. Nearly 500 million people living their daily lives on top of weapons designed to save humanity from the enemy they didn't even know existed. Hyunwoo had been working to understand the communication systems that linked all the platforms together. These quantum entanglement networks are incredible. Instant communication across any distance. We could revolutionize human civilization with this technology alone. That was part of your ancestors' plan, Ancestor said. When the weapons are activated, the communication networks will remain active permanently. Humanity will become truly unified for the first time in its history. Minho discovered something that made him call the others over to his workstation. Look at these energy readings from the planetary core. The power output is increasing steadily. At this rate, we'll reach full charge in less than 6 months. The charging process is automatic once activation begins, Ancestor explained. The planet draws energy from the quantum foam that underlies all space. As more platforms come online, they share energy through the network, accelerating the process for all. Giwan studied the power measurements and felt both amazed and terrified. How much energy are we talking about? When fully charged, each platform generates approximately the same amount of energy that your sun produces in a full year. All 47 platforms working together can output energy equivalent to a small galaxy. The scale was almost impossible to comprehend. Humanity's ancestors had built weapons that could harness the fundamental forces of the universe itself. Salman was practicing with the combat systems and discovering abilities she never knew she possessed. The armor enhanced her reflexes to superhuman levels, while the weapons allowed her to project energy shields and fire beams that could cut through solid metal. This isn't just technology, she realized. It's like the equipment is teaching me how to use it, correct ancestor confirmed. The systems contain the accumulated knowledge and experience of the greatest human warriors from the First War. When you interface with them, you gain access to 10,000 years of combat expertise. Hyunwoo had established contact with awakening facilities on 15 different worlds. Commander, you need to hear this. I'm receiving reports from the other platforms. People with the right genetic markers are arriving at each site, just like we did. But they're not coming alone. What do you mean? They're bringing others with them? Family members, friends, colleagues? The awakening process seems to be affecting more people than just those with command bloodlines. Ancestor processed this information quickly. Interesting. The quantum fields generated by the awakening platforms may be activating dormant genetic memories in the broader human population. Your species' natural survival instincts are responding to the approaching threat. Minho made another discovery in the geological data. There are structures buried even deeper in the planet, levels below this facility that we haven't seen yet. The deep archives, ancestors said. Would you like to see them? Without waiting for an answer, new platforms began rising from the depths of the facility. These carried them down past the levels they had already explored, into chambers that seemed to stretch endlessly into the planet's core. Here, they found something that took their breath away. Vast libraries containing the complete knowledge of humanity's first interstellar civilization. Art galleries filled with masterpieces created over thousands of years. Museums displaying technologies that seemed more like magic than science. This is everything we were, ancestors said, as they walked through halls lined with holographic displays. Your ancestors wanted to preserve not just the weapons needed to fight the Devourers, but the culture and knowledge that made humanity worth saving. Giwan stopped before a display showing children playing in floating cities among the clouds of gas giant worlds. We built all of this once before and lost it all when forced to flee, but the knowledge remains. When this war is over, humanity will be able to rebuild everything that was lost and more. They spent hours exploring the archives, learning about technologies that could terraform worlds in decades instead of centuries. Medical advances that could extend human lifespans by thousands of years, and artistic achievements that represented the creative peak of an entire civilization. But it was Salman who found the most important discovery in the military archives. There are detailed records of the First War, she reported. Battle plans, weapon effectiveness reports, analysis of Devourer weaknesses. The records painted a picture of a conflict that had raged across multiple galaxies. Humanity had fought bravely and achieved many victories, but the enemy had simply been too numerous and too powerful. What was different about their strategy, Juan asked, studying the tactical reports. They fought defensively, Salman realized, always reacting to Devourer attacks instead of taking the initiative. The weapon platforms we're building now represent a completely different approach. Correct, ancestor confirmed. Instead of waiting for the enemy to arrive at human worlds, the platforms will strike at the Devourers while they are still in deep space. Vulnerable during their long journey between star systems, Hyunwoo discovered manufacturing facilities that were already beginning to produce ships and equipment for the coming war. These factories are completely automated. They're building vessels using designs that are 10,000 years ahead of our current technology. The ships being constructed were unlike anything in the current human fleet. They were designed to interface with the planetary weapon systems, serving as mobile extensions of the platform's power. More importantly, they were built to be crewed by humans whose abilities had been enhanced by the ancient armor and weapons. How many people will we need to operate all of this? Jiwan asked. The platforms are largely automated, but each requires a command crew of 4 individuals with the proper genetic markers. The fleet vessels need crews of 20 to 50, depending on size. In total, approximately 100,000 humans will be directly involved in operating the weapon systems as they return to the main command chamber. Jawan felt the weight of leadership settling more heavily on his shoulders. In just a few days, he had gone from being a simple survey commander to being responsible for coordinating humanity's defense against an enemy that had driven them from their homes once before. Ancestor, what happens if we fight? Then humanity will face extinction. The Devourers have grown stronger and more intelligent during their 10,000-year hunt.
Oh, yeah.
There will be no escape this time.
Ow.
2 weeks had passed since the first platform activation, and the galaxy was changing in ways that most humans could not yet understand. Jiwan stood in the main command chamber, watching as reports flowed in from 46 active weapon platforms. Scattered across human space, the Vega system facility just reached full operational status. Hyunwoo announced from his position at the communication console. Commander Taeyeon reports, all systems are functioning perfectly. On the main display, a map of known human space showed the locations of all the awakened platforms. Each one pulsed with soft blue light, connected to the others by lines of quantum energy that spanned impossible distances. Every platform now has its command crew, Ancestor reported. The genetic calling has brought the right individuals to each facility. Humanity's ancient bloodlines have answered the call. Soman had become the unofficial coordinator for training programs across the network. The combat systems had taught her more about warfare in 2 weeks than she had learned in 10 years of military service. Now, she was helping others learn to use the ancient weapons and armor. The learning curve is incredible, she told the others. People are adapting to the technology faster than should be possible. It's like the equipment is designed to work with something already present in human DNA. That is exactly what it is designed for, Ancestor confirmed. Your ancestors built these systems to enhance the natural human capacity for courage, determination, and sacrifice. The technology amplifies what is already within you. Minho had spent days studying the geological modifications made to the weapon platforms. Each world was unique, but all had been fundamentally altered to serve as massive energy generators and quantum computers. The scale of engineering involved is staggering, he said, reviewing data from a platform in the Alpha Centauri system. They moved entire mountain ranges to create optimal energy flow patterns. Some worlds had their orbital paths adjusted to improve solar collection efficiency. What amazed him most was that none of the current human colonies on these worlds had detected the modifications. The disguise was so perfect that even advanced geological surveys had missed the artificial nature of the planetary structures. Juan was reviewing personnel reports from across the network when something caught his attention. Ancestor, these crew assignments, said each platform needs people with specific genetic markers. But I'm seeing reports of entire families being drawn to the facilities. The awakening process has triggered responses in genetic lines that we did not expect to activate, Ancestor explained. Apparently, 10,000 years of intermarriage has spread the command codes more widely through the human population than our original projections suggested. Hoonwoo looked up from his console with excitement. That might explain what I'm seeing in the communication logs. We're not just getting reports from the 47 weapon platforms anymore. I'm picking up similar signals from archaeological sites on dozens of other human worlds. The implications were staggering. If more ancient facilities were awakening beyond the original weapon platforms, it meant humanity's ancestors had been even more thorough in their preparations than anyone had realized. Show me the additional sites, Jiwan requested. The main display expanded to show the entire region of human space. In addition to the 47 weapon platforms, new signals were appearing from worlds that had never been identified as ancient sites. Research stations, manufacturing centers, training facilities, and supply depots were all coming online. Ancestors really did plan for everything, Giwan said with amazement. They had 3,000 years of war to learn from their mistakes, Ancestor replied. The second phase of preparation was designed to ensure that if humanity ever got another chance to fight the Devourers, they would have every possible advantage. Solomon was coordinating with newly awakened training centers when she made a disturbing discovery. "Commander, you need to see this. The combat records from the First War. I've been studying the tactical reports, and there's a pattern in the Devourer attacks." She brought up battle records on the main display, showing engagements that had taken place thousands of years ago. "Look at the timing. The Devourers didn't attack randomly. They always struck at moments when human forces were divided or distracted." Minho studied the patterns. "That suggests intelligence, strategic thinking." "More than that," Solomon continued. "It suggests they were gathering information about human tactics and adjusting their strategy accordingly. They were learning from each battle, getting better at fighting us." The implication was chilling. If the Devourers had been learning and adapting for 10,000 years, they would be far more dangerous than the entities humanity had fought in the First War. Hyunwoo received an urgent transmission that made his face go pale. "Commander Weir. Getting reports from the deep space monitoring stations. The lead Devourer entity has changed course." "Changed course how?" "It's no longer heading for the outer edge of human space. It's heading directly for the Sol system." For Earth, the command chamber fell silent. Earth was the heart of human civilization, home to over 10 billion people. If the Devourers reached Earth before the weapon platforms were ready, humanity would lose not just their homeworld, but their entire cultural and political center. "How long do we have?" Juan asked. Ancestor processed the new trajectory data. "At current speed, the entity will reach the Sol system in 28 years. However, our analysis suggests it may accelerate further as it approaches." "Can the platforms be ready in time?" "The weapons will be fully charged and operational within 18 months. But that is not the real concern. The entity's course change suggests it knows about the awakening. Something is guiding it toward Earth specifically." Salmon felt a chill run down her spine. "You think they know we're preparing to fight back?" "The evidence suggests coordinated intelligence," Ancestor replied. "The 17 Devourer entities are now moving in patterns that show clear communication and planning. They are not just hunting humanity randomly. They are executing a specific strategy." Minho found something in the geological data that added to their concerns. "The deep space monitoring stations are detecting strange energy signatures along the Devourer approach routes. It's like they're changing the space around them as they travel." "Changing it how?" "Making it hostile to the type of quantum fields our weapons generate. If this continues, our weapons might not be effective by the time they arrive." Giwan felt the weight of command pressing down on him like a physical force. The enemy was not just returning with greater numbers and intelligence. They were actively working to counter humanity's preparations. "We need to accelerate our own timeline," he decided. "How quickly can we get all platforms to full operational status?" "Current projections show completion in 18 months, Ancestor replied. "But the process could be accelerated to 12 months if we accept higher risks during the charging phase." "What kind of risks?" "Overcharging the quantum cores could result in catastrophic failures. We could lose entire platforms and their crews. But it would allow us to strike at the Devourers before they reach the inner systems." Was coordinating with platform commanders across the galaxy when he discovered something that changed everything. "Commander, I'm getting reports from the manufacturing centers. They've begun producing something new. Ships unlike anything in the previous records." On the display, technical specifications appeared for vessels that seemed to defy known physics. They were smaller than the massive battle cruisers from the First War, but the energy signatures suggested they were far more powerful. "These designs were not part of the original archives," Ancestor admitted. "The manufacturing AIs have been analyzing current human technology and integrating it with ancient knowledge. They are creating hybrid designs that combine the best of both eras." Salman studied the ship specifications with growing excitement. "These aren't just weapons. They're designed to be piloted by humans wearing the enhanced armor. The ships would essentially become extensions of the pilot's body and mind." "How many can be produced?" Giwan asked. "The manufacturing centers project completion of 10,000 vessels within 8 months, Ancestor replied. Each ship requires a crew of 1 pilot and 3 support personnel, all enhanced with ancient technology. The numbers were encouraging, but Jawan knew they were still facing an enemy that had consumed galaxies. Will 10,000 ships be enough? Unknown. But your ancestors left one final gift. Something they called the Unity Protocol. When all platforms and ships are operational, the enhanced human crews can link their consciousness together through the quantum network. Link how? 47,000 enhanced humans, all connected through quantum entanglement, sharing thoughts and reactions at the speed of light. The individual ships and platforms become parts of a single massive weapon, system guided by collective human will. The concept was almost impossible to grasp. Humanity would literally fight as one unified mind. With reflexes and coordination no individual could achieve, but even as hope grew within him, Juan could not shake the feeling that their enemy had been preparing to. The Devourers had learned from their first encounter with humanity. This time, they were coming not just to consume, but to ensure that humanity could never threaten them again. 5 years had passed since Commander Jiwan Park fell through a rock on what seemed like an empty world. He stood in the primary command center of Platform Hope, watching as the final preparations for humanity's greatest battle reached completion. The main display showed the approaching Devourer entity, still 23 years away from Earth but growing larger and more menacing with each passing day. Behind it, 16 other entities moved through space like a plague of darkness, consuming everything in their path. All platforms report ready status, Hyunwoo announced from his position at the Quantum Communication Array. 10,000 ships are deployed and waiting. 47,000 enhanced humans are connected to the Unity network. Quan could feel them all in his mind. Thousands of voices sharing thoughts, fears, and determination across impossible distances. Sensation had been overwhelming at first, but now it felt as natural as breathing. Humanity was truly fighting as one. Salman had become the tactical coordinator for the entire network. Her consciousness touched each ship and platform, monitoring their status and coordinating their movements. All weapon systems show full charge. The quantum disruption fields are stable and ready for deployment. Through the shared network, Giwan could sense the crews on every platform and ship. People who had been ordinary farmers, teachers, engineers, and parents just 5 years ago, now they were humanity's final hope, enhanced by technology their ancestors had built, but connected by something far more ancient and powerful. Minho monitored the deep space sensors from his position at the Geological Analysis Station. The lead entity has begun its final approach, acceleration. It will reach firing range in 72 hours. Are we ready? Guan asked, though he could feel the answer through the network before anyone spoke. We have to be, Ancestor replied. This is what your ancestors prepared for. What they dreamed of during 10,000 years of exile. Humanity's return to the stars as protectors instead of refugees. The Devourer entity filled their forward displays now, a massive darkness that bent space around itself. It moved with purpose and intelligence, no longer the mindless consumer their records had described. This thing had learned and grown during its long hunt for humanity. It knows we're here, Solomon reported. Sensor readings show it's deploying some kind of defensive screen. The quantum signature is unlike anything in our records. Through the Unity network, every enhanced human felt the same chill of recognition. Their enemy had not been idle during the years of preparation. It had been adapting, preparing countermeasures for the weapons it knew humanity would use. Begin. The first phase, Guan commanded. Across 47 star systems, massive planetary weapons began to charge. The very worlds beneath them hummed with power as quantum energy built to levels that defied comprehension. In space around each platform, fleets of hybrid ships took their positions. Their enhanced crews linked directly to the planetary systems. The Devourer entity detected the energy buildup and began to change. Its dark form stretched and shifted, becoming something that hurt to look at directly. Through the network, 47,000 humans felt the same sense of wrongness and revulsion. Trying to counter our quantum fields, Minho reported. The space around it is becoming resistant to our weapon frequencies. Then we adapt, Juan replied. Through the Unity network, he reached out to every enhanced human in the fleet. Remember what Ancestor taught us? Our ancestors built these weapons. But our strength comes from what we are, not what we use. The network pulsed with shared understanding. Humanity's greatest weapon had never been technology. It had been their refusal to surrender. Their willingness to protect others, even at the cost of their own lives. Their ability to hope when hope seemed impossible. All platforms prepare for synchronized firing, Salman announced. The countdown began. 72 hours became 60, then 48, then 24. The Devourer entity grew larger and more terrible with each passing hour. But so did humanity's determination. Hyunwoo coordinated the final technical preparations while monitoring communications from across human space. Reports coming in from all colonies, people everywhere can feel the network activation. They know something important is happening. On Earth and 1,000 other worlds, ordinary humans looked up at the stars and felt a strange sense of anticipation. Most did not understand what they were feeling, but some ancient part of their minds recognized that their species was about to face its greatest test. 10 hours to optimal firing position, Minho announced. The Devourer entity had grown so large it blocked out entire starfields. Its presence warped space in ways that made their sensors struggle to maintain accurate readings. But through the Unity network, the enhanced humans could sense it directly, feeling its alien hunger and intelligence. It's not alone, Salman realized. With growing alarm, there are smaller entities around it, thousands of them. The displays confirmed her fears. The lead Devourer had not come alone. It had brought an army of smaller creatures, each one capable of consuming a planet. They spread out in formation around their larger parent, preparing for battle. All platforms commence firing sequence, Giwan commanded. Across the galaxy, 47. Worlds unleash the combined fury of 10,000 years of human determination. Quantum energy beams that could crack moons lanced through space at the speed of light, converging on the Devourer entity from dozens of different directions. Creatures' defensive screens flared and held. The beams that should have torn it apart barely seemed to affect it. Through the network, 47,000 humans felt the shock of their weapons' failure. Adapted our countermeasures, Ancestor said with something like surprise.
I'll save the God, 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 Gotties, the Gotties, the Gotties, the Gotties, the Gotties of the Gotties, the Gotties, the Gotties of the Gotties, the Gotties of the Gotties, the Gotties of the Gotties of the Gotties.
We're right, oh. Why is it was a waddy? Run sida. I was red, ride, red aid, wad, red wide, rod rowels wide. Entity learned to resist quantum disruption. But Juan felt something else through the Unity network. Not despair, but anger. Pure human fury at being denied their chance for justice. The enhanced crews of 10,000 ships felt it too, and their vessels began to glow with energy that came not from their engines, but from their pilots' determination. Ships, attack formation, Salman commanded. The hybrid vessels dove toward the devourer entity like a swarm of angry insects. Their weapons were smaller than the planetary arrays, but they carried something the larger guns did not. They carried the direct will and determination of their human crews. The smaller devourer creatures moved to intercept them. But the enhanced humans were ready. 5 years of training with ancient technology had taught them to fight not as individuals, but as parts of a greater whole. Ship after ship darted through the enemy formation. Their crews sharing reflexes and coordination through the quantum network, Minho made a discovery that changed everything. The entity's adaptation is incomplete. It can resist our quantum fields, but only if they're projected from a distance. Close-range exposure still affects it. Then we get close, Giwan decided. Through the Unity network, he shared a plan that was both brilliant and insane. Instead of trying to destroy the Devourer entity from safe distances, they would take the fight directly to it. The planetary platforms would continue their bombardment to keep the creature's attention, while the ships would close to point-blank range and deliver their quantum charges directly into its core. That's suicide, Hyun-woo protested. The energy levels at close range will destroy our ships. Not if we do it together, Solomon realized. The Unity network can distribute the energy load across all 47,000 of us. We share the damage the same way we share our thoughts. It was the ultimate expression of humanity's fundamental nature. They would risk everything to protect others, even if it meant sacrificing themselves. Through the network, every enhanced human felt the same fierce determination. The final battle began in earnest. Ships dove through swarms of smaller devourers, their crews accepting terrible losses to clear a path for the final assault. The planetary platforms poured continuous fire into the main entity, keeping its attention divided, and at the center of it all, Guan coordinated the attack through the Unity network, feeling every loss and sharing every moment of courage as his people fought for the survival of their species. The climactic moment came when 1,000 ships broke through the defensive screen and unleashed their quantum charges directly into the Devourer entity's core. The explosion that followed lit up half the galaxy, visible from star systems hundreds of light years away. When the light faded, the Devourer entity was gone. Not destroyed, but transformed. Its dark matter structure had been disrupted and converted into pure energy that dispersed harmlessly into space. The smaller creatures, deprived of their controlling intelligence, simply ceased to exist. Through the Unity network, 47,000 humans felt the same overwhelming emotion. Not triumph, but relief. They had done what their ancestors could. Not they had protected their people and their worlds. The other 16 entities are retreating, Minho reported with wonder in his voice. They're leaving human space. Humanity had not just won a battle. They had proven that consciousness and determination could overcome any force in the universe. The Devourers, faced with a species that refused to be consumed, chose to seek easier prey elsewhere. In the years that followed, the Unity network remained active, connecting human worlds across the galaxy. The weapons platforms became centers of learning and culture, sharing the rediscovered knowledge of humanity's first interstellar civilization. G1 often returned to the cliff where he had first fallen and awakened the ancient protocols. The spot had become a memorial, not just to the battle they had won, but to the simple truth that sometimes the most important moments in history begin with a single person losing their footing on a loose rock. Humanity had reclaimed its destiny. Among the stars, not as conquerors, but as guardians. And they would never again allow themselves to forget what they were capable of when they stood together.